Hello, BookTube. I've got a little mail for you today on a gray, overcast Thursday that has been getting better and better as the day goes on. First thing in the morning, it was not only raining, but it was that kind of rain, very cold rain, where the drop hits something and explodes like a rain bomb into 1,000 other little drops that are every bit as big somehow and that are every bit as cold. It was miserable. Early morning was miserable. And it's been getting less and less miserable because the 7 solid days of rain that were predicted by literally everyone is going to turn out to be 30 hours of intermittent rain, and tomorrow's going to be bright and sunny. So it's been rough with my little bean. You have needlepoint Frida this time around. It's been rough because she doesn't like this kind of weather at all, and neither do I. We're both solar batteries, really, of a kind. We're solar panel receptors. So it'll be nice to see the sun back again tomorrow. And in the meantime, because there's these weird intermittent heavy clouds, I have to apologize for the lighting. And I have to apologize for the background noise that you might hear. You might hear screaming. That is local school children, local youths, who, when they get out of school in the afternoon, scream. Almost nonstop, at the top of their lungs, for no reason. They're not afraid of anything. They're just screaming. And I suppose that if I were submitted to the American educational system, I would scream too. And you might also hear jostling and knocking and metallic or wooden thumps and butts. That's a handyman who has decided that a cold, inclement, sopping wet day is the perfect time to come and get some odds and ends done. Not the rest of the days of the year. So we've got all the apologies out of the way. We'll do a little mail. We've got some packages, a little bit of confusion, and a periodical. The periodical is the New Yorker. That is the cover. The cover is by Barry Blitt, and it is called Slappenheimer. And some of you may remember about 10 years ago, two of the summer's hottest movies were Barbie and Oppenheimer. And around the same time, one Hollywood star walked up on stage at some award ceremony and slapped the face of another Hollywood star. It was a long, long time ago, so I don't expect you to remember it. Nice that the New Yorker is right on point with its humor. But if you Google it, I'm sure that you can find it. It was about 10 years ago. And the issue is, it's nice and big and thick. And I imagine, I haven't looked at it yet. I just looked at the letters page. I imagine I'll have quite a bit of fun reading in here, although the big book, there are 2 big books reviewed. One is Marilyn Robinson on the Book of Genesis, and the other is that new Keith Haring biography. I might have to read it. I might have to go at it again. I don't like the artist, but everyone's writing about the book. But recently there was a piece on Spinoza in the New Yorker, because one thing you love about the New Yorker is that you can't predict what will be in it. And it got a few letters, and most of them are pretentious, as will be the case whenever anyone even remotely classified as a philosopher comes up. But one of them was adorable. One of them is terrific. A writer from Eugene, Oregon, writing, during Vietnam War, I was a conscientious objector. At the time, in order to be granted IO, that is non-participant status, you had to profess a belief in a supreme being. Capital S, capital B. This I was unable to do. I told my draft board, no, but I believe in supreme being. Do you see the difference? Lowercase s, lowercase b. One of the panel members said, yes, like Spinoza. My appeal was successful. That is just lovely. That was a wonderful little detail. So I'll be mining my way through that. And then we have the mail, and we'll start off with the mystery. Someone decided to send me something. I think it's a publisher, but there's no way for me to know unless I do a forensic reconstruction. Somebody decided to send me a pamphlet of some kind. And rather than put it in an envelope, they decided to make it an envelope. So the back is blank. They wrote my address on the back of the thing and just taped it at periodic intervals around the side so that it became, I guess, a container of its own. I had to destroy it. And after a few tries of just tears all the way down one whole side of a thing, 2 or 3 pages being torn at the same time, I realized that I'm not destroying it in order to open it. I'm simply destroying it. Someone sent me something that I'm simply destroying. I have no idea what this is. I guess that if it's jigsaw puzzle time, if it's play event time, I could maybe lay them out on the floor and try and piece them together again, see what this is and why someone thought that was a good idea. I have no idea. At least I have the luxury of trying that if I want to. I don't think that I'm going to have time for games today. But at least if I do that, I have the luxury in that my current little dog, there's the needlepoint version of Frida, would have no interest in what I was doing. It was never possible for me to be unmolested laying things on the floor when I had beagles. So they were always interested in disastrous ways. They were always interested. They were little terrors just in general. Something didn't have to be on the floor. Oh, there's the baby bee. There's the real baby bee. Ooh, hey baby, what are you doing? Somebody didn't even have to be on the floor. They would routinely look around for books or magazines, the edges of which were hanging over the edge of a table. What's that? If I pull at it a little, it's not the table, it's something on the table. If I pull at it a little, and it was always the bravest one. I never actually saw them. I've never actually had dog cam, house cam videos of any kind, so I've never actually seen who did it, but I could pretty well guess. I was always the one who felt bravest at that moment, who would decide, I'm going to pull this down, and all the others would just be watching. The minute it hit the floor, it might as well be game, so they would all be on top of it in an instant, and I would lose things that way. But this time, I could piece this together if I wanted to. I'm not sure that I want to, but either way, let it be a lesson. Let it be a lesson for all of us. This is an educational channel. Let it be a lesson to all of us. If you care about something enough to send it to someone, care about it that extra 2 or 3 neurons to put it in an envelope. There you go. So all the rest of the mail is in envelopes. It's all thin stuff, lightweight stuff. So I don't think there are any squealers in here. But there are no boxes. Yeah, I think I exhausted my week's worth of boxes yesterday. Let's see what this first one is. One of these brown packages that are full. They're padded with asbestos, flaking asbestos. So, but you know, what's a little lung cancer in the cause of literature? Oh, okay, great. Okay, somebody contacted me about this. This comes out in July. And naturally it made me think of Jordan Parsons, the late lamented BookTube channel. I have no idea if he watches BookTube anymore. No idea if he watches me, if he does watch BookTube. I imagine if you stopped watching BookTube, I would be the first channel you would stop watching. Because I represent a significant outlay of time, all by myself, regardless of the rest of BookTube. But he was a wonderful booktuber in his day, and he had rats. He had pet rats. And they were adorable. Sometimes they were in his videos. And I was reminded of him when publishers reached out to me about this book. This is by John Adams, but not my John Adams, and Edmund Ramsden. And it is called Rat City, Overcrowding and Urban Derangement in the Rodent Universes of John B. Calhoun. How's that for a subtitle? Let's see what that means. In 1960s America, the city is in peril. Amid the vast new housing projects that rose from the dust of slum clearances, crime is flourishing and social order is breaking down. Was the modern city driving its inhabitants mad? Enter John B. Calhoun, an ecologist turned psychologist employed by the National Institute of Mental Health to model the effects of crowding on rats. What effect is it having on them? In a program of research that spanned 3 decades, that's a lot of rat lifetimes, Calhoun built ever more elaborate rodent utopias where the rats' every need was met except space. As population densities within the rat cities ramped up, social structure broke down, and the rats of NIM, National Institute for Mental Health, the rats of NIM. Oh my God, I didn't even catch that. The rats of NIM began to exhibit a vortex of psychopathologies that led inexorably to their violent extinction. What Calhoun called the behavioral sink seemed to mirror the criminality and civic unrest erupting across the nation. See, this is the kind of thing that made me fascinated when the publicists reached out to me. Some of these publishers really have my number. They really do. Or only a few of the books on their list in any season actually bother to show up. One of those two things, maybe both. The authors here, this is the first book to tell the story of John B. Calhoun and his rodent utopias, culminating in the terrifying world of Universe 25, a rodent habitat where the only strategy for survival was complete social withdrawal. Like the type that I have accomplished here at Hyde Cottage. Although my blissful social withdrawal is going to be exploded into a million pieces next week. Baby, I'm not totally socially withdrawn, little girl. I have you staring holes in my back with your beady little eyes. Following the rats from the baiting pits of Victorian London to the laboratories of Nim and Calhoun from rural Tennessee to inner city Baltimore, this book explores how his work informed the understanding of personal space, public housing, and debates about the animal urges underpinning human nature in mid-century America, while challenging the popular assumption that Calhoun's deteriorating rat cities necessarily predicted a bleak future for humanity. Fantastic. Okay, well, if Jordan were still around, of course I would send this to him, but I would also urge him to review it for me. He knows all about rats. I don't. I know a little bit about them. I've known 2 or 3 people in my life who kept them as pets. And wonderful pets they were, too. Don't tell anybody that I said this. Oh my God, she's listening carefully. All right, let's come up with a diplomatic way of saying this since she's watching. They're really, really smart. Rats are. They're really, really smart. They're also incredibly affectionate. It always amazes me that some of the animals that humanity has pegged as the slovenliest or the most verminous are actually some of the nicest animals you'd ever want to meet. That always amazes me. I mean, I'm not going to sing any praises of mosquitoes or alligators, but pigs and rats? Yeah, I am. The rats that I've met as pets, incredibly intelligent. Just really, really smart. And really, really affectionate. Clever. In a way that animals that have hands tend to be. It's not, I won't say it's more cleverness, but it's a different kind of cleverness than animals that don't have hands. I don't know how to quantify that, but I made sure always when I had friends who had rat pets, they would always assume, I think probably just from reflex, they would always assume that I would be grossed out and that I wouldn't want to come over if the rats had free run of the place, or even if they didn't. And they were always a little bit surprised that I wasn't grossed out at all. No, I'll cuddle with your rats, absolutely. The only question mark, the thing that we need to make absolutely clear amongst ourselves is the rats can't be running around loose in your place if you invite me to bring my dogs over, because I'm not going to me, there's a bright white line. I'm never going to tell a dog not to do something that is completely instinctual to it, unless the instinctual thing is directed at my own dogs. If a larger dog feels an instinctual urge to attack a smaller dog and the smaller dog belongs to me, well, no, you can't do that. But it was never a problem anyway. And every once in a while, when I had the right group of dogs, I would bring them over anyway. They were curious. They weren't going to immediately attack. But Rat City, which is it does not have rats on the cover. It has a housing project on the cover. How fascinating. So that's July. Let's do this next one. This next one's as light as a feather. I don't know what to make about that. Let's see what this thing. What's tiny? All right. Well, we're gonna have all sorts of tiny things this time around. This is the Opiate Books. Okay, great. All right. This doesn't have a date on it. It says available now. Is that right? Are you actually going to do that? $15 paperback. Available now. Well, okay. All right. Opiate Books. I know that it's available now because I'm holding it in my hand. You're still withholding information. Don't withhold information from a critic. You let me decide what I need to know and what I don't need to know. You don't decide it for me. But this is by Victor Marrero, and it is called Atlas Bound. For over 150 years, Florence's Galleria della Accademia has had perfection on display. Michelangelo's sculpture, David. How many of you have seen David? Yet meters before that famous rotunda, millions of tourists and art lovers must also pass by the Renaissance artist's lesser-known, unfinished works, The Four Prisoners, or Four Slaves. Here, the poet Victor Marrero has made those incomplete and imperfect statues the sole subject of his stately debut collection, Atlas Bound. Available now. Is this a February release? Is this a March release? I have questions about it. You're making me look it up. You're making me do work. Which allow me to speak for all of my critical brethren. We do not like to do work. Anyway, the author definitely expands this hyper-specific subject matter to universal themes such as humankind's endless quest for meaning in existence, its tendency towards self-imprisonment, and the author's own search for his place in the universe. Okay, so this is poetry. This is all in verse. This is a volume of poetry. Okay, how interesting. All right, what are we doing here? I need to manage my feng shui. This sounds really interesting. Those are the statues in the background. They are unfinished. It looks, from certain vantage points and certain angles, it looks uneerly like they're just trying to force their way out of the stone. Really is worth looking at. I mean, the back of the book, out now, is right. The crowds tend to just mindlessly funnel straight towards David, but they shouldn't. Anyway, let's move on here. We've got 2 more packages to do. They're distressingly small and light. Steve wants big fat boxes full of stuff. Yesterday really spoiled me. Yesterday I had 2 big boxes in the mail at 2 separate times. So what is this next one? Oh, okay, very good. Excellent. This comes out at the end of March. It's got a lot of paperwork with it. It does not need paperwork. It absolutely does not need paperwork. This comes out at the end of March. Oh my God, look at all this fuss. I believe we've already seen this on this channel. There are more of the local Utes out there, but they're being nice and encouragingly quiet. That's good. I often want to go up to them and ask, why, when you got out of class, do you automatically start screaming? Just formlessly, motivationlessly screaming. But according to recent statistics, a third of them are armed. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to approach them for any reason. This is The Great Amelia Gray. This is a romance novel. I occasionally get romance novels in the mail. This is something we've seen already. This is Sincerely the Duke. With a very particular kind of cover there that I particularly like. This is a Paul Marin cover. So, of course, this belongs in the Ye Olde Permanent Collection. This is the 2nd volume in the Say I Do series. You can see it. You can make it out there. Say I Do, just floating there in the nighttime. Lovely modern Regency cover. Just lovely. Even the hint of twilight there in the distant background with the lights twinkling, that is just lovely. Don't when you get these things, try not to just blur over the effort that goes into the artwork on the cover. It's quite nice. It's a totally different kind of artwork than the kind that was on old style Regency romances, but it's still lovely. So what do we got here? Miss Edwina Fine has one shot at finding a husband before the Ton learns her secret. With red hair, green eyes, and being one of triplets, she knows the superstitions and rumors about women like her. So when a marriage proposal from the Duke of Stonerick arrives by mail, Edwina jumps at the chance to solve her problems, but nothing could prepare her for the attraction that sparks between them when they finally meet. It will take more than Edwina's wit to navigate her past reservations about marriage and the passion that ignites within her for the irresistible Duke. So I'm trying to remember if I have read the first Say I Do novel, but I'm assuming now that the organizing principle of the books is the 3 sisters, the 3 triplets. Rick, the Duke of Stonerick to you, enjoys his life exactly as it is, honing his expert marksmanship, playing cards, and fencing with his friends. He even enjoys exchanging affectionate humor with his mother about his lack of matrimonial engagement. In other words, he's gay. That is a country where no Regency romance will go. Not a mainstream one. No way. A Regency romance could go there, and it would be a very good story. Half the women who write the Regency mysteries that I love could write this book, and it would be great. Where Rick is gay and is perfectly happy spending time when the urges overcome him with stable boys or discreetly hired hands, but he still needs a wife, and she still needs a husband with a title and property. And they court and they marry, and then she is told the lay of the land, but kindly in his case. Plenty of noble alliances in the Regency period and before and after were conducted on exactly those grounds, but not kindly. And the woman learned, much to her dismay, that her only job was to produce an heir, and that her husband would get good and roaringly drunk in order to do it, but that all the rest of his time, and certainly all of his physical affections, were going elsewhere. What if that were done differently? What if his heart was breaking, but he couldn't change what he was and wasn't about to lie about it or try to repress it. That would be amazing. This will not be that. This will not be that. But when a recurring illness reminds Rick he has no heir, he picks a name from the list of prospects his mother presents and writes a simple marriage proposal. He has a recurring illness? Okay, that's a new wrinkle. Then he forgets about it until the very lady with an iron will and breathtaking bravery shows up at his doorstep, ready to accept. He writes a marriage proposal by mail and then forgets about it. Oh, hello there. I'm proposing marriage to you. Okay, fantastic. Well, I love Amelia Gray anyway. I'm going to read this anyway. So this is coming out at the end of March. Wonderful. Always wonderful. This is a small package that I will be happy to have. Okay, that sentence didn't go where I was expecting. Let's get Paul Marin off the mind and move on to the last book here. Also a wee small little envelope, so not much in the way of big expectations here. Okay, Criterion Books. Criterion Books, Encounter Books, does not believe in giving the critic any kind of information. What is going on here? All these people expect me to go online and do my own research? For Pete's sakes, what am I, an anti-vaxxer? I want you to provide me with a pub sheet that has all the information on it. I don't want you, in this case, I was not provided with the pub sheet, but also if you provide me with the pub sheet, I want the pub sheet to have all the information. I don't want to tell me the price and the format, and then when I look for the release date, and get all coy. Just tell me everything. Anyway, so I don't know anything about this. I'm gonna have to look it up. This is by Anthony Daniels, and it is Buried but Not Quite Dead: Forgotten Writers, a Père Lachaise. Lovely, dignified thing with I guess appropriately French flaps. We'll have to see what this is. I don't really know. Peggy Noonan has praised this author. There are snippets of praise on the back. They're not for this book. Peggy Noonan has praised this author, and so has Charles Murray, the author of The Bell Curve. Didn't know he was a big avid reader. Yet more noise. The one thing I didn't warn you about, sirens. Okay, the local Utes have behaved themselves, and so has the handyman, but we still got sirens. So there's a little bit of a description on this thing. Let's see what we have here. While many famous writers, Balzac, Proust, Oscar Wilde, are buried in Paris's Père Lachaise cemetery, there are also writers, many more of them in fact, buried there who have been completely forgotten, not necessarily because they were not good, but because cultural memory is necessarily limited. In 8 chapters, the inimitable Anthony Daniels dilates on some forgotten writers in this cemetery, exploring their literary merit and amusing byways of history. How fascinating. How incredibly fascinating. I could do the exact same thing here. I could do the exact same thing at any one of the stately cemeteries around me. Wouldn't that be incredible? Oh my. There's one in particular that I'm thinking of that has 80 million literary people buried there, including a good 50 million who are not known. Wow. Okay. So, do we have... yeah, it's just every chapter is a different author, and they're all forgotten. How incredible. Okay. So who is the inimitable Anthony Daniels? He was born in London in 1949. Good Lord. He's like 200 years old. Who's around still? He was born in the 40s. That's ridiculous. He retired from medical practice, except for medico-legal work, in 2005. Okay, all right. So in 2005, you retired from even the nominal pretense of helping people, but you're still willing to bill them. Okay, great. He has written several travel books, including an account of a journey across Africa by public transport, and under his pseudonym, Theodore Dalrymple. Oh my God! Theodore Dalrymple has written many essays for publication, such as City Journal, some of which are collected in Life at the Bottom, which has been translated into several languages. He divides his time between England and France. Okay. I don't know when this comes out. Buried but Not Quite Dead. I would have reversed that title. I don't know when this comes out, but that is fascinating. Absolutely. Actually, a lot of these things are fascinating. There's not really a dud in the bunch. I just allow me to reiterate from this weird miscellaneous mail haul what I say all the time. I love my job. So fantastic. I will look up when this comes out. So that is our mail. We have buried but not quite dead. Imagine if I did this with, I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to pick. Probably I know the one cemetery, it's just about 10 minutes away, that I would pick first. But even the one that's like 3 minutes away, Forest Hill Cemetery, has plenty of literary people in it. But Mount Auburn is probably the big one that I would do. And that is full of literary people. What a project that would make. So we have that. We have a romance, Sincerely, the Duke, and that hence the title. We now know the reason for the title, because he just went to his writing desk, wrote out a marriage proposal, licked the envelope, and sent it off. So presumably he ended it with, Sincerely, the Duke. Oh, by the way, would you like to get married? And then forgot about it. So I'm entranced already. Then we have Atlas Bound. Long poem cycle about these great enigmatic statues from Michelangelo. How interesting. And finally, Rat City, about a man whose decades-long experimental contention was that the reason rats act the way they do in big cities is because they're overcrowded. The rats are overcrowded because overcrowding causes pathological behavior. I know almost nothing about, what was the guy's name? John B. Calhoun. I know John C. Calhoun, but I don't know John B. Calhoun at all. Fascinating. Just a fascinating batch of books. I love my job. So I'm going to wrap this up. That is your mail for today. I'm hoping that tomorrow I will be apologizing for excess sunlight. I'm hoping that the bean and I, who are desperately thirsty for sunlight, will have it tomorrow. That would be great. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.